I'm Theresa Soto, and I'd like to ask you this morning to please turn your video off while we light the chalice and Black Lives Matter candle. This will help people see the words on the screen and follow along. We also recommend that you make certain you have the most updated version of Zoom. We want you to get the best view possible of the service on your computer. Please note that we are recording, so if you don't want to be in the recording that will be on our YouTube channel, please keep your camera off. And now I want to welcome Emily Stoper to give us our board welcome this morning.
We are an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are welcome here. I'm Emily Stoper, a member of the Board of Trustees. Here with me are Pastor Theresa Soto, Worship Associate Tara Miller, our worship producer, Vincent Rains, and others. If you're joining us for the first time today, please look at the chat for a link to our guest connection card. For much of this service, we're asking you to turn off your camera, as this makes it easier for many of us to focus on the music and words. There will be times to see each other, and we'll let you know when to turn your camera on. Good morning.
Let's begin by lighting the chalice. In just a moment, you'll see the words on your screen. We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. And the Black Lives Matter candle. We light this candle in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and work for the day in which Black lives are treated equitably with dignity and justice. We begin our service today with a reading about the moon. Thank you, Steve Thomasberger.
I'm sorry for what I said about the moon by Gordon Atkinson. I'm sorry for what I said about the moon that night when you and I were driving home from church. You were only 5 and you had your face pressed against the window watching the moon. I was only 40 and I had my mind pressed upon itself, torqued and wearied, racing and fretting and wholly out of touch with the present. You were only in the present, only seeing and worshiping. You saw the beautiful roundness of the moon slipping behind trees and over walls, silly and playful, and keeping perfect pace with a car. The moon turned her mysterious attention upon you. She chose you out of thousands and said, you were special. She was following us, and you rightly wanted to know why. Dear heart, I gave you what I could that night, but I had to put myself out of my thoughts and my adult world. It was like pulling a brush out of tangled hair, and it hurt a little. I wasn't at my best. I gave you an answer that was true, but terribly false. I told you something that you need to know, but you shouldn't know. The thing I told you will dry you up and shut you down forever. I was careless, and I'm sorry for what I said about the moon. I said, the moon isn't following us. It only looks like it's following us because... And then I was struck silent, maybe by the moon. I don't know. I tried to find a way to tell you that the distance from the Earth to the moon is so great relative to the distance we travel in cars that the moon seems to stand outside the relative motion of the closer objects we see passing by the window when we drive, blah, blah, blah. That's the idea I had in my mind, but there's no way to say such things to a 5-year-old. It won't fit your language. Perhaps we should never have fitted into ours. I hesitated and was lost. I couldn't find any verbal purchase. Meaning and speech were like an owl gliding across a full moon. There was no holding anything that night. She put quite a spell on us both, the moon did. That's what I think now. So I had no answer for you. I should have left it at that, but I forced myself to speak anyway. I said, I know your eyes are telling you that the moon is following us, but it isn't. I know it doesn't make sense to you right now. You'll just have to trust me on this one. You looked at me in that way that makes me think my chest is going to start hurting if I don't get my arms around you. It's a quiet and thoughtful look with no expression, just your eyes, innocent, wide through your bifocals, a little bigger than they should be. Processing, processing, processing. And then you look back at the moon, who said nothing, but moved with silent light. The moon answers no one. Time is on her side. Fathers who say she does not follow children will one day die, but the moon will always be there, steady and patient, outlasting all newfangled ways of seeing, taking all comers. You were caught, weren't you? Caught between your love and your eyes. It won't be the last time, I'm afraid. Everything in your heart tells you that I love you. And everything in your experience convinces you that I am wise. And you know that I tell you the truth, even about big and little things. Little one, I want to tell you that everything I said that night was true in its own way. God help us both. But your eyes, your own eyes, they told you that the moon was following us. Your very own eyes. For a tortured moment, you hung between the moon and your father, and then I think you chose the moon. You broke eye contact slowly, like you could slip away without me noticing. You never doubted my sincerity, but you disagreed, and your exception was duly noted by all the powers. You left me and went back to the moon, your mind racing 100 miles and 1,000 years in sweet little girl circles all the way home. I saw you choose the moon, and I was proud of you. You chose the truth of your own eyes and still kept your love. And you were only 5.
Thank you for that beautiful word, Steve. Now we will unmute our microphones and greet our neighbors.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Hope.
morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so sweet to see you.
Everyone. Good morning.
What a great
Good
podcast.
morning.
Carolyn.
That was amazing.
That was beautiful.
That
Just
was
gorgeous.
beautiful.
It was.
Good morning.
Rainy Sunday
Morning,
Oh,
everybody.
the
Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Marcy.
Good morning,
Morning,
everyone.
Hi,
everybody.
Marilyn. Morning.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, Claudine.
Morning.
Good morning,
Hi.
Kitty. Morning,
Hi,
Kitty.
Kitty.
Hi, Oscar.
Good morning.
Hey,
Hi there. Hi,
Hey,
Tony.
Laurel.
MJ.
Hey, Dick. Hi, Corliss.
I sent out cards. You'd have gotten one.
Claudine.
Hi, Claudine.
Hey,
Hi,
Judith.
Claudine. Hi,
Hello.
Matt.
Corliss.
Hi, Ron.
Hi,
Hi,
Janet.
Bill.
Hi, MJ.
Hi, Purdy.
Hi,
Good
Owen.
morning, John.
Good morning.
Good
Hi,
morning, Ron.
Hi, Lila. and
Hi,
Renee.
John.
But it can be for whoever else.
Debbie.
We're
Hi,
here,
Laurel.
Claudine. Good
Hey,
morning,
Dick.
Claudine.
Hi, Pastor. How's
Hi,
it going,
Judith.
Dick?
Hi, Marilyn.
Hi, John boy.
Hey.
Did we do it? Did we do it?
Thank you.
All right.
Hey,
Hi,
John.
Marcy.
Back. Let's go ahead and turn to our story. We've got Tara Miller this morning with the Light Sisters.
Good morning. Today, I want to share with you a story called The Light Sisters, adapted from Carol McVicker Edwards in The Light of the Moon, 13 Lunar Tales from Around the World, Illuminating Life's Mysteries. It is the story of the Vietnamese New Year, the Tet Festival. This year is on February 12th. And I respectfully include this story not as an expert or a Vietnamese person, but as someone who holds with care the idea that our difficulty in approaching knowledge from other cultures is already reflected in the way in which we describe and name it. We cannot stake a claim as though we are discoverers, nor from this single vantage point do we now possess expert knowledge. But we embrace the wisdom and beauty of another culture and consider ideas that will nourish us. We can also celebrate the visibility and affirmation our Vietnamese congregants have when that is created when we use diverse texts in respectful ways. The Light Sisters. In the Jade Palace dwelt Lord of Heaven Nok Hog and Queen Mother of the West Te Vu Mo, with her daughters, the sun Matroy and Moon. And Moon Mat Trang. Lord of Heaven noticed the people of the earth needed warmth to grow rice for nourishment. So he asked his daughter Sun to cross the sky each day to warm the earth. Her sister Moon watched jealously as Sun, carried by her 4 attendants, blazed gloriously across the sky. When it came time to harvest, Lord of Heaven was worried the rice would spoil if the people did not have more time to work the fields. So he asked Moon to light the night sky for the harvest. She was filled with joy and pride with her new purpose, crossing the night sky, night after night, giving the people light to harvest. But Sun noticed the people were slow and tired and hiding in the shade. Sun and Moon began to argue. Moon, you are too bright, and you are not letting the people sleep, said Sun. You are just jealous of my light, accused Moon. Sun went to Queen Mother of the West to complain about Moon's bright light. Queen Mother of the West brought out a container of ashes. And she rubbed them on Moon's face and whispered, with your quiet ivory light, the people will love you more than your sister Sun. She instructed Moon to grab the ashes and put them on her palace windows. Moon followed the directions, but was feeling ugly. She went to her house thinking she would never come out again. she peeked one last time out her window for her last look at the world, she saw the people cheering. Queen Mother of the West gave Sun the duty to watch over the seasons and Moon the duty to watch over the months for planting and harvesting. Now, when she saw her sister shining over the people, her heart was at peace because she knew her silver light would soon be shining over the night. Everyone is called to shine. Now we will hear from Susan Kiter and Renee Winton as they share a meditation on breathing.
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Everyone is called to shine. Finding our purpose by using our imagination. This is what I was reflecting on for our service today. The wisdom story this morning, the mystery of how sun and moon began their cyclic journeys, was revealed when a need was noticed. The people needed warmth and nourishment. Sun had filled the need. The people needed more light for harvest before the rice spoiled in the field. Moon filled the need. The sisters argued. Queen Mother of the West gave purpose to each. Peace and balance prevailed. This is similar to how I found my purpose at different times in my life. As a teenager, I noticed art and music was a regular part of public school curriculum in New Jersey in the 80s. But dance was not. So I would study to become a dance educator and advocate. My Presbyterian upbringing left me feeling disconnected from spirit, so I became a spiritual seeker on the neo-pagan path, which eventually led me here. Like Moon and her feelings of jealousy on my journey toward my purpose, I found many days where I felt insecure in my purpose next to someone else's sun. Sometimes I have felt ugly and wanted to hide in my safe space, not realizing my value. Being an educator during distance learning gives plenty of opportunity to get my mind all twisted up. my 165 students, are they getting what they need from me? Half my students have not turned in any work. How do I reach them? Then I would get an email from a student thanking me for my kindness and thoughtful teaching. And I am reminded of my value. I am grateful for the peace that is brought in knowing I am enough. I am worthy of love and belonging. But what of this theme, imagination? How does imagination help us remember everyone is called to shine? Well, the recent successful inauguration has many of us filled with hope. Does not really change the needs we see around us. The need for homefulness, food security, health care, racial equity, the need for dismantling internalized, unconscious racism. The list goes on. All of these needs invite us to journey with imagination to resolve these needs. This week, I was invited to a meeting on the good ones, white exceptionalism, where we remember that though we have done good things and though we don't identify as racist and though we have done many things in the past that are good, that we always need to continue. Rest if we must, but don't quit, continue. And the need was framed for me in a new way at this meeting. Now is always the time to re-engage in unlearning white supremacy and healing the hurts within our walls with our beloveds. I look forward to fulfilling my purpose with you all in the next first Sunday to stop hurting the people of color I love in this community. This week, I invite us to notice a need in the world and use our imagination to create a path which fills us with purpose and the understanding that we are all called to shine. Blessed be, and so it is.
As you move to heal and change the world, may you remember that you are doing just that, even when you can't immediately see the shifts. May you connect with others who are open to learning from you and who can also teach you your own ways of healing through a long, slow time of work and care. May you find at least one thing today that ignites your heart with the ability to shine forward. And as we enter a time of rebuilding in our nation, we also rebuild in our communities. We think of people rebuilding their health. We think of Gail and Robert. We think of Anthony. We think of Nico and Noah as they rebuild their understanding of daily life. We pray for them in their grief. We think of others battling COVID as well. Stephen, Melissa. We hold with most care Gogi and her family, her chosen family, and you who are hearing my voice and will miss her very much. For all these things, we have reorienting time. And the time it takes to heal, we wish it were faster, but it is not. And while we wait for healing, We have undeniable parts to play in each other's lives, which we offer with gratitude, love, and care. For all these things, we give thanks and say, Amen. Just a couple of reminders today. One of them is that I invite you to make sure that you use your chalice chatter as a tool. If you don't want to read every single word, you have a table of contents to direct your attention. Also, this Tuesday is the monthly board meeting of First Unitarian Church of Oakland Board of Trustees. If you're interested in attending, you'll see a PDF in the chat. If you click that, you can download it to your computer. It has all the information, the date, the time, how you participate, and what is possible. But also, if you have questions, you can direct them to yesplease@uuoakland.org. And next, I have a word for you. So let's just take a couple of easy moments. Go ahead and focus on your breathing if that's accessible to you. Recently, reflecting on imagination, I wrote these words. You would be surprised how many times a day my eyes flick to the horizon for the prompt, you must be able to imagine. I don't know who's asking, but sometimes I imagine it to be Ada Maria Isasi Diaz, and sometimes Grace Lee Boggs. What? I plead, sometimes waving in the general direction of everything on fire. I must be able to imagine what? I hear Fannie Lou Hamer not apologizing. I must be able to imagine peace, not as the absence of difference, but instead its generous embrace. Not as unity at any cost. I hear Wilma P. Mankiller building. Truth unvarnished and accountability transparent. I must be able to imagine that our labor combined is more than what capitalism is determined to extract. There is so much more. There is so much more I must imagine, but it is not pretend. The ancestors have built that capacity and that reality with the sustenance of their very lives. What good is imagination? It depends who you ask. Ask a neurologist. They might mention mirror neurons, which are structures in the brain that send and receive signals when they both do a useful movement and also see a person do a useful movement. Your brain imagines muscles doing that work. Ask Gloria Steinem, movement builder and feminist elder. She says, without leaps of imagination or dreaming, we lose the excitement of possibilities. Dreaming, after all, is a form of planning. Or ask Laurentine Hamilton. Hamilton, one of the founding leaders of this congregation, moved to Oakland in 1864 to become pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Oakland. Hamilton's ministry was threatened in 1869 when he was accused of heresy. He preached that there was a second chance of salvation after death, contrary to Presbyterian doctrine. This is what Unitarian Universalists recognize as restorationist universalism. The idea that all souls will reach God, but they may have a time of instruction or education before union with God. A reunion that John Murray called the restoration. The radical idea Hamilton preached is that humans are human, which is a human condition. That is, you are not inherently beyond love. This universal love was at the center of the trouble Hamilton faced. It is still at the center of the struggle for the imagination of the American public today. It is at a decision point that Hamilton looms immense, like a hero, all shoulders and facial hair and theological courage and innovation. You are the fruit of innovation. You are the home of your religious ancestors' best imagination. And the next line in the story, the way it's usually told, is very simple. Faced with a trial, Hamilton refused to renounce his belief in posthumous salvation, which prompted the leaders of the Presbyterian Church to strip him of his ordination and force him to resign. This is the part where we pause. Do you remember the story of the Light Sisters when the moon wanted to shine? Oh, I hope he picks me. The humans need light. But she didn't get picked. And she was very sad, not knowing if she could be helpful. And this is where we find ourselves. Like Laurentine Hamilton, we have long carried a dream. And like Sister Moon, we have longed to do work that is useful and makes a difference. And in this time, people who care about you honestly and practicing living lives of compassion, that's you. That's what you do. You've been through so much. Black yoga and healing teacher Jasmine Allen offers that people often hear the word trauma and assume it can't refer to them because it has to be something extreme. Trauma is anything that overwhelms your ability to cope. It is less about the event and more about your nervous system's ability to process it and its long-term impact. When the reprieve from long-term stress comes, the work of healing moves to the forefront again. I wonder what we miss when we don't acknowledge the difficulty of this moment. The story does indeed have a happy ending, but not before a sad ending. Once I asked my dad if he'd ever been fired from a job. He said that he had a job making donuts on the night shift and he got fired for falling asleep and burning the donuts. Funny, right? A little different than Laurentine Hamilton, who staked everything on the idea that people can be loved as they are, and that there should be a strong presence of liberal religion in the West. Do you remember the moment the Queen of the West muted the shine of the moon with ashes on her face so she could do her work? Mother gently rubbed those ashes on the windows, and Moon got sadder and sadder. I look ugly now, she said. It's important for us to remember these moments of loss and not smooth parts of the story over, as though the story is better without the true, if sadder, parts. Laurentine Hamilton lost everything. Has that happened to you? I have indeed lost everything once or twice. There are experiences that in the novel of my life are more than one sentence long. That's probably true for you as well. One reflection I wrote on these moments of challenge is this. The storms we face can at times not kill us, but neither make us stronger. Surprisingly, the broken human heart grows back, like the was-severed arm of a starfish, with the arrogance to survive attacks from predators and the cruel indifference of the vagaries of nature and budget cycles. But it turns out that the regenerate replacement heart is never a carbon copy, adapting instead like a starfish does, variety indomitable, to a location, temperature, salinity, and the nurture, ebb and flow of waves of love. We find that Hamilton's career was not destroyed by these events. Instead, he and his parishioners set up another church, the first independent Presbyterian Church of Oakland. That's the good news. They joined the Unitarians in 1879, and the church was renamed the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. That's you. The historical founding figure of this church, Reverend Laurentine Hamilton, also imagined. He imagined the congregation in and among which you participate. But he didn't imagine the pandemic which we are experiencing, which ranges from a plot twist to a tragedy in our lives, depending on the moment. I wanted you to hear and feel the story of the Light Sisters, especially because the moon is a steady and solid example of how our work doesn't have to be perfect to be awesome. Astronomy writer Fraser Cain puts it this way: we enjoy the light coming from the sun during the day and then the comforting glow of the moon at night. But the light coming from the moon is an illusion. And you know you're actually seeing the reflected light from the sun bouncing off the moon, which acts like a mirror, a really terrible mirror. The moon reflects between 3 and 12% of the light shined on it by the sun. Just a little bit. Still, it is a very important light. The pandemic has tested many things about us, about how we do things and what matters. But still, it has been difficult to articulate the way that our worth is separate from the things that we do. So, in this time of transition, as your body and spirit, which may have been through 4 years of relentless vigilance and sorrow, recover, today we remind each other of this, that there are times when we shine at lower watts because the demand of everything in general is drawing on our individual and collective power. But that doesn't make you, as Sister Moon worried, ugly or less beautiful. It means that to hold everything around us, we commit to gently shine. Please join me in closing this exploration with adaptive reflection on thoughts of Khalil Gibran on work. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house. It is to sow with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit, and to know that all the blessed dead are standing about you and watching. Work is love made visible. And if you cannot work with love, but only with distaste, it is better that you should leave your work and sit at the gate of the temple and take alms of those who work with joy. For if you bake bread with indifference, you bake a bitter bread that feeds but half a person's hunger. And if you sing though as angels and love not the singing, you muffle people's ears to the voices of the day and the voices of the night. I am grateful for the way you have shined. And if you need to hold everything you are holding, you can still shine with that gentle light. May it be so. Let us see to it. now we'll be able to enjoy I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free by Kentha Lang.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. I say them loud, I say them clear, for the whole wide world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. And then you see and you'd agree that every man should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live how I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I should do. And though I'm way overdue, I'll be starting anew, yeah. Well, I wish I could be like a bird up in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I soar to the sun and look down at the sea, and I'll sing 'cause I know, yeah. And I'll sing 'cause I know, yeah. Well, I'll sing 'cause I know what it means to be free. Yeah, I'll sing 'cause I know, yeah. Well, I'll sing 'cause I know. Ooh, I'll sing 'cause I know what it means to be free.
I like it. Ah, I'm so grateful to be here today, giving the invitation to generosity, and reflecting on imagination and reflecting on how we fill our needs and we fill each other's needs. When my spouse, LJ Morton, and I sought out this church nearly 20 years ago, we had a need to be held in community while we grew our family as a biracial lesbian couple. And hold us in community you did, through fertility issues, substance issues, parenting issues, adoption issues, mental health issues, employment issues, and loss. By remaining steadfast in our purpose of housing spirits, hearts, and minds, no matter their condition, our church was a safe place for me to sing, dance, listen, pray, practice my way through challenges. Just as sun and moon balanced their purpose by giving light in turn, we must also imagine how we might fulfill the church's needs. You might envision yourself healing the hurt, the hurtful ouches and oopsies of microaggressions by going to First Sunday's caucuses, and increasing educational equity through Boost West Oakland, volunteering with the Ella Baker Center, or attending Surge events. One simple way we are invited to fulfill our purpose is by giving to the church financially, as well as giving our time and talent. Imagine yourself giving a little bit more. Maybe even envision an extra zero on your next gift. Please give generously using the link in the chat. And join me in our congregational commitment to the work of the church, which is weaving the tapestry of love we call community. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
Good morning. I'm going to sing This Little Light of Mine, and I invite you to sing with me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, building up a world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you, each of you, for joining us this week. We will close with that song as our benediction today. And I hope that you leave this meeting with a heart full of joy, purpose, and imagination for the week to come. Thank you.